What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is October 8th of 2019. Well, folks, I hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you are. And in today's update, we've got a lot of key things to discuss. But to start, as you can probably tell, I'm back in the U.S. after my trip to Malta, where I attended the Delta Summit. I had a great time. It was really fun. Got to meet a lot of cool projects and people, but I got hit by a ton of different delays. Actually missed one of my flights on my way back, and along with that, as you can probably tell, my nose is a tad bit stuffed up. But if you guys can bear with me, I not only appreciate it, but we've got a lot of exciting things to talk about today. We're going to be taking a look at the continued shift in altcoin dominance throughout the market and seeing which players are really capturing that dominance. Outside of that as well, we're going to look at what might be the beginning to the end for Libra. We'll talk more about that later on in the video. And last but not least, talking about a very simple principle that can show us when a recession or when a bottom might be in for equity markets, just like any other market, because it's a game of inflows and outflows. And outside of that as well, we have got a sponsored review of Somnium Space, a really interesting project exploring the blockchain and VR space and trying to provide a unique experience for the VR sector. So we'll be talking about that later on as we go throughout the video. Let's go ahead and take a look across the market here. So as we always do, to start, take a look across the board. Most cryptocurrencies are in the green, with a few exceptions down here in the red at the moment. And a good amount of altcoins are keeping up above Bitcoin here. And not to mention, these are altcoins that are in the top 10 that really have some substantial market cap. So if we're seeing them outpace Bitcoin, this means that we're likely seeing a rise in altcoin dominance. And these are some large players. We've got Augur, we've got Litecoin, Binance Coin, Ethereum, outpacing Bitcoin again, continuing the uptrend. Dash, NANO, Energy. As we continue to go up the list here, you start to see familiar names, but one of the ones that really stands out to me, right, guys, is Chainlink. This has been one of our top 3 picks here. Now, we do have a few other ones. Quant's doing well. Verge is doing well as well. Decentraland kind of going towards the top. Now, the thing, though, to take into mind, though, when we're taking a look at this, is what's been really performing well over the last few weeks. And I got to say, Chainlink, which has been our top pick for the year, has been absolutely crushing it. Now, this is where one of my most exposed altcoin positions, because it is my top 1 play for the year. And I'll show you guys as I look through the chart here what my kind of game plan is at the moment. But if we take a look here again, the major trend here that I want to focus on, the broader focus at the point, this moment in time, is that we are seeing a very clear shift, guys. It's become apparent and clear. We sent out an alert the other day to my newsletter group and stuff that I've been kind of pressing not only on there but also here on the channel from time to time, and that is when we closed below the last significant lows we set back here in September for Bitcoin dominance. If we breach below that level, it's a pretty clear confirmation. We've had enough lower highs and lower lows here to signify that we're going to see a growth in altcoin dominance and a likely decline in Bitcoin dominance to follow that. And we're seeing other coins right here continuing to rise. Ethereum getting serious dominance, as well as XRP, right? And again, is there much big news? No. Could it just be simply that altcoins are a tad bit oversold at this point? Very much likely. And I think as we go throughout the year, there's going to be a lot of exciting things happening from Ethereum with DeFi, all these other altcoin projects, the ones that have stuck around and actually built something. Again, they are far, they're the few from the masses that have probably gone off and died. But there are going to be some projects that actually stick around and actually produce something. Now let's go ahead and actually take a look at the chart here, right? Let's keep it simple, right? I tell you guys, on my channel, I look for trend shifts, I look for the broader term time frames, and I take a look mostly at the weekly, right? Again, if we took a look at a few indicators, if we took a look at the longer term price range, it wasn't too difficult to call this shift, right? I gotta say that again, we make a few wrong calls here on the channel. We make some right calls here, but this is one that we've been pretty accurate on so far. So I have a few bragging rights today. I will talk about a few plays that I've called here on the channel. But again, I make a lot of wrong calls here on the channel, guys. For example, I thought the 6K level would hold back in 2018. It did not do that, and it, in fact, went down to 3,000. It went down 50%. So we have to learn from what we make as wrong calls, but also know when we make those right calls. What did we do that led to that being a successful trade or a proper call in the market? All right, I'm rambling, but you guys get my point here, right? It's a good thing to reflect on the good and the bad. So there's a lot of things coming in combination. We were hitting a historical resistance range. Again, the price analysis, this is the second component here in how I do TA, right? I look for the key levels where we might see resistance that we've at least seen in the past, previous resistance, tends to be either become new support or serve as previous resistance in some cases. And that's exactly what we got here. As we see a longer term trend where Bitcoin dominance is probably going to generally hold down in a lower range, right? Because there's going to be more competing cryptocurrencies, at least into this next cycle, right? And as we enter into a bull market, we know that altcoins gain market dominance. Now, outside of that as well, all of our indicators were flashing the stochastic RSI, the BACD cross, and then also a decline in the squeeze momentum indicator, all starting generally back here, right? Now the MACD is a little bit of a lagging indicator, but the thing to always look for is the decay and the divergence, right? You can see it was starting as early as back here, right? The 12th of August. So you can start to see that shift coming in. And the same goes here for the squeeze momentum indicator, stochastic RSI. Now, we've talked about this. We've taken a look at the weekly here. And as I mentioned, I'll go ahead and turn off my drawings here. We have dropped below the previous low here. Now, it's not anything significant. I want to see this be a really momentous, drop here in the sense of Bitcoin dominance here today and tomorrow. And I really want to get down to this range down here around 66, right? This is the last real support range we have here for market dominance for Bitcoin. But again, that's going to be a near 2% drop here for Bitcoin dominance, and I think that can happen over the next week in the sense of where I think we could really go over the next few days. Now, let's go ahead here and take a look at some of these plays that have really been capturing market dominance. Which ones are taking up the vast majority of it? Well, to be fair, guys, and just very blunt, if you take a look at the scale of market cap and the growth of cryptocurrencies that have that large market cap, most of it is Ethereum and XRP. If we really just want to kind of cut it down, right? We talked about this on the channel. We talked about ETH, for example, doing really well comparative to Bitcoin here. We'll take a look at Binance, right? Looks like it's set to break out here, again, past this resistance range. And when it does, again, a lot of people have been talking that this is going to be a really big rally here for ETH, right? That we might get one of these kind of pop-ups that we saw back here in May of 2019. Who knows? Again, I don't want to sit here and tell you what's going to happen, but I will say, again, this is the range that I look to add in to altcoin positions. I mean, guys, this thing has been on a bloody sell-off, and most altcoins have, but Ethereum has actually got a lot of fundamental developments going on top of it. Study the DeFi movement, and I've got something cool, again, that's coming up, my startup I'm working on, which, again, if you guys haven't, you guys should definitely sign up for that list. I'm not going to spam you with stuff. I just want to let you all know when we launch our company or our project, but, again, there's a lot of interesting things going on in DeFi, no matter what. And we've got a good range here that we might see a favorable risk to reward profile. Again, you got to determine that for yourself. I know for myself that there's going to be a lot more reward to my comparative risk, at least for my current trade strategy. Again, XRP as well. Same exact story here, right? We'll take a look at Poloniex, get that long-term history, right? We're on the lower range here, guys. It's not a time to fret or get worried. And again, we're setting a general third higher low here, right? We've been generally setting this kind of range here for XRP, where we've been setting higher lows every time in Bitcoin comparative, but also we've been squeezing at slightly lower highs here compared to Bitcoin during these spikes, slightly lower than the previous ones. But we know XRP is a momentum indicator, or sorry, it's a momentum play, not a momentum indicator. Yeah, use that. Actually, well, actually, it's funny I say that. You could actually use XRP in a lot of ways to determine altcoin cycles, risk-taking in markets, right? And we've had some very parabolic rallies in the past. Probably likely that history is going to repeat itself. Right. Now, what's the real play that's been really getting me going over the last few days or last few weeks? What's been a very proud trade of mine that I've made in the altcoin space where I'm more exposed than, well, I wouldn't say it's my biggest exposing position. Right. I'll have to go back and check it. But, I've got a lot of different altcoin positions that I have at the moment. I've got a lot of basic attention token as well, as that's my second top play for the year. But one of my major positions that I have is Link BTC, right? Chainlink. Now, I'll go ahead and share this with you guys. We had written about this back here in the newsletter a while back, and I said that Chainlink, again, month after month, it's been like this way for the last few months, that Chainlink has been one of my favorite plays for 2020. Now, why is that? It's been one of the best performers in 2019, has solid liquidity, Coinbase, Binance, and it's trading across a dozen different exchanges right now that actually have real liquid volume, that, again, have real elements that provide price discovery and provide a conduit for people to actually buy in and trade on Chainlink. It's Google partnership, huge. And it's going to probably continue to make these large partnerships where these large providers, such as Google Cloud, for example, Oracle, and then also hopefully one day Amazon Web Services, are going to streamline and white label blockchain technology, and in this case, streamline Chainlink's Oracle services, right? I really think that's going to happen, but we'll have to see over time, right? But taking a look here, again, if we go here and focus more on the actual price action, again, I usually look at the weekly, because take a look at the daily here, right? Huge pickup, more than doubled its Bitcoin, its Bitcoin comparative here over the last few weeks, right? We'll go ahead and take a look at the date and price range, and they did this in 25 days. It's been absolutely phenomenal. It's been more than I ever could have imagined in the sense of its performance, and I'm glad I was patient on it because I was down a little bit for a while, right? I averaged in around this kind of lower range here, I think ever since back here in August, down here to September. I added some as well just back a few weeks ago, and it's been a great add ever since. I'm actually, I think, close to either being, actually, no, at the moment, I'm actually way up in my Bitcoin comparative, but in the sense of USD, I'm still, I think, slightly down a little bit, right? And I'm fine with that. My major goal here is just to make sure I'm increasing my Bitcoin comparative, and it's been one of my best performing positions so far. So anyways, do I think that we're going to continue this rally? Absolutely. I think this is going to be a great play going into 2019 personally. It's just my opinion. But at the same time, I wouldn't doubt that we could possibly see a little bit of a correction here. We'll have to see. I'm just not crazy eager to add into any positions right now until we get a little bit of a pullback because I'm already well positioned in Link at the moment. Now, in the sense of the grand scheme of things, I like to take a look at the USD price, right? This will be my last thing I'll talk about here, guys. In the sense of the USD chart here, again, we're hitting a little bit of a resistance range here, I think, in the short term. But let's be real, right? Chainlink was trading back here at $5 back here in June of 2019. At the moment, it's pretty much half of that. My target range for Link is in double-digit territory at a minimum in this next cycle. So I'm not fretting so much about, oh my gosh, for example, if I was someone who didn't buy Link, I wouldn't be sitting here going, oh my God, I didn't get it at $1.60 at the bottom, and now it's $2.55. I can't buy it now. I need to wait for a correction. Guys, if you believe that Chainlink could be the next Litecoin or Ethereum or XRP for this cycle, don't fret over the $1 to $2 price difference that you're going to find in the market month to month, right? We're looking for plays here, swing traders. We're looking for those plays that over the next year or two could provide a 5x, 10x, 20x, because we're not going to get as much crazy plays as we did last time. We need to be strategic. We need to think about what plays really have the potential to showcase momentum. So anyways, I just wanted to share that to you guys. Again, I made a lot of wrong calls in the past, and I've also made some right ones. This happens to be one of those right ones, and I'm happy to say that I really do have confidence that Chainlink over the next few months is going to prove itself, not only in the sense of price, but also in the sense of its fundamentals. All right, so to talk a little bit about Libra here real quick, and then we'll dive into traditional markets. PayPal is the first company here over the last few days to finally exit the Libra Cryptocurrency Association. Now, I'm going to go ahead and kind of cut to the chase here, guys. This doesn't surprise me too much. The regulatory hurdles have been huge for Libra over the last few months, ever since they came out and talked about the project, because Facebook trying to create a currency of any sort, whether it's trying to compete with the dollar or not, is going to get a lot of backlash with the user base that they have, right? Now, not to mention as well, they're a centralized set of companies. And the thing that people don't take into account is, people would say, well, there's not much risk for PayPal being involved in this. Actually, there is a lot of risk, guys, because it is a centralized operation that government regulators can cut out. Not to mention, they put up $10 million each as participants of the Libra Association. And it can give you a lot of red flags as a company if you're participating in something that the government doesn't want you doing, right? Being a big centralized company like PayPal that works in the financial sector, right? So it's important to understand the pros and cons that PayPal has taking the risk of engaging and becoming a partner of this Libra Association. And quite frankly, it looks like the risks are outweighing the potential rewards. A lot of companies will rush into these things, guys. I know we saw a lot of big companies joining on the Libra Association. But if you think about it, companies have this fear of like, well, if everyone else is doing it, then I got to join into it. And the regulators seem to be getting in the way of any expansion. It seems like the traditional financial sector sector is either lobbying hard enough or that regulators just genuinely are concerned that this might be a disruptor to the financial sector and not in a positive way. So I'd like to know what you all think down below in the comments. What do you think about this? Do you think that this is the beginning to the end, or do you believe that this is just a kind of an anomaly that Libra is going to continue to expand and leave a major impact on the financial sector? I'd love to know in the comments down below. Anyways, last short thing to take a look at here, guys. If we take a look here at equity markets, there's only one thing we need to observe, because with equity markets and any other market, markets are a game of inflows and outflows. Is there more money coming in, or is there more money coming out? Well, there's a really interesting thing to also take a look at in this kind of statement of inflows and outflows, and that is how much cash is available and how much are we exposed to equities. Well, there's a really interesting chart here on LNTR where they showcased nearly the last 30 years here of price action. If you take a look here, you can see that if we take a look back in 1998 to 2000, we started to see a peak out in exposure to equities. So the bottom part of this chart here is overexposure to equities in the portfolio, or basically a lacking amount of cash positions, a cash cushion in this case, to provide extra liquidity to potentially buy more equities, right? So we can see during market sell-offs, there's huge amounts of cash positioning, right? A lot of people are holding cash waiting on the sidelines to buy in. And you can see here that's the case with both here after the collapse of the dot-com bubble as well as the collapse in 2008. Well, we are seeing, again, the peak out of what we saw in the previous market cycle back here in 1998 and 2000. And what we saw very similarly, again, we didn't go all the way down, but what we saw very similar again to 2007 and 2008. But the reason why it's very severe here is we're seeing the same kind of overexposure in the tech sector. We're seeing too much exposure to equities and an absolute lacking of cash positions, something we haven't seen in nearly 2 decades, right? So again, very simple chart here, but it paints a very clear picture that, again, we might be seeing the beginning to the end here for equities. We've already been pushing sideways as the cash has dried up here in markets. But along with that, we're starting to set lower highs here, which is not a good trend to see, right? All of our weekly indicators are signaling downward turn at the moment, but if we take a look here at the daily as well, again, broke out of the ascending wedge here. Question is, can we get something to boost markets higher? Can we finally get a trade deal, established in some sort? Can we finally get something that is going to prop equities up just a little bit higher? Even if we do get something, guys, this isn't where I'm interested, because this past week, my altcoin positions have outperformed the market tenfold, right? I'm not interested in equities. And quite frankly, I think the fundamentals right now and the risks associated with the market currently outweigh any reward, in my opinion. But I'd like to know, again, what you guys think down below in the comments. That all being realized, let's go ahead and take some time to take a look at a really exciting project, and that is Somnium Space. Alrighty everyone, so let's go ahead and spend some time to take a look at today's sponsor, and it is no other than Somnium Space. Now, I believe a lot of you out there are going to enjoy this review as much as I will, because quite frankly, I feel a lot of you enjoy emerging technologies. Being involved in cryptocurrencies and blockchain is a good sign of that, but they're not the only two technologies that are going to completely revolutionize the way we live our day-to-day lives. A very close competitor to that is virtual reality, and Somnium Space is taking the best of both worlds by not only becoming a revolutionary startup for virtual reality, but also incorporating the technology of blockchain to incorporate things like non-fungible tokens that represent digital items and collectibles, as well as having ownership of land in their virtual space. And the interesting thing about it is that they're doing a lot of things different comparative to other startups, and they're really pushing the boundaries of building a true virtual experience, very similar to something like Oasis from Ready Player One that many of you might have possibly seen. So as we venture into talking about Somnium Space, I want to make a few things clear right off the bat, because I understand with every new startup claiming to do really bold things, a lot of the times there's not much substance at the start. Well, Somnium Space has a client you can download right now. You can try it out on your computer, test around in the world, and get a feel for it. And they've got some serious partnerships here that I think prove to the seriousness of the project, working in part with Loom, which is a very big public platform that allows dApps to scale to a very large degree. You guys can check out in the link down below in the description if you want to learn a little bit more about Loom. But along with that as well, working with OpenSea, which is really becoming one of the biggest digital collectible markets for blockchain-based startups or dApps. So it's really exciting to see that they've got these solid partnerships out the bat and that they've got a functioning product. I mean, this is so rare in the crypto space to have this before you do any kind of raise or you try to gain users of any sort. But this is really exciting to see. Now, there's a few things we want to talk about here. The first thing here is that they're doing a land sale here, so an initial land offering, which is kind of contrary to things like ICOs or IEOs, which again are promising something in the future. Here you're actually getting something right off the bat. Now, a lot of people would look at something like this and think of very similar competitors. We have had similar projects out there that have tried things like initial land offerings, for example, like Decentraland. But the thing about this, in the sense of Somnium Space in this case, comparative to Decentraland, is that Decentraland is a 2D landscape. It's very limited, very cartoony, and not to mention as well, some big issues with it is that it doesn't support virtual reality. It doesn't support VR, and they don't really have any plans of doing that right now, at least from what we can tell. Somnium Space is a full 3D world with audio, with visuals that allows you to truly have freedom and flexibility in building on top of the space that you own. So what's really interesting is that you've got this limited set of space where there is a sense of limitation very similar to Bitcoin. And with that, people are incentivized when they own it to build value on top of this land, to build a unique space that people really want to explore. This has been one of the biggest problems with VR, is building a really unique space that people want to explore and builds value for its users. Now, in the sense of pushing the boundaries of technology, I think Somnium has done some really cool stuff. I mean, they've already got some interesting partnerships that we mentioned earlier, but one of the interesting things they've done is partnering with Sony Mobile, and they're pushing the ability to be able to take your mobile phone, not the traditional archaic technology. I used to be really interested in game development, for example, and still have kind of a little bit of a hobby and a passion around it. Years ago, in order to get models of humans and to be able to build 3D complex models that resembled you or another in-game character, it would have costed tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, they've now actually partnered with Sony Mobile to be able to build a 3D model of yourself. We've got a video here, if you guys want to see it, where we have Artur, who's actually one of the major leads behind the project, walking around an individual who runs a VR channel. And you can see here, I'll go ahead and show in the video just how realistic the actual individual model is. And you can see it's a full 3D scale model by just walking around with the mobile phone. So this stuff is extremely exciting. It reduces the cost and it lowers the barrier for so many people to build real in-game models. It's been a big problem with VR games where most VR avatars are so, kind of gimmicky, or they're very much fitting with the term avatar. They're not very realistic by any means. And I think this is going to open up so many applications for VR to be integrated into the real world, for business use cases, for communicating with friends and family, to have something that's realistic to some degree. And I think that's really exciting for an evolution of VR. Now, again, I want to leave you guys with a ton of resources down below to get a feel for what Somnium's offering. But the really cool thing is that, as I mentioned, you can go download the client right now. And not only that, you can either build worlds inside of Unity that you can import, but you can use Somnium's world builder in this case that allows you to build different types of environments and use a variety of already built, pre-built assets in this case. So I think this is extremely cool. Coming again from someone who used to love game development, really focused in level design, I think this is extremely exciting. It opens the opportunities for so many people to get involved and actually build value for the Somnium ecosystem in this case. Now, there's a few other interesting things as well. As I mentioned, again, the sense of realism. This was a video as far back as December 20th of 2018. So they've been working on this for some time. This isn't something that's popped up overnight. As I mentioned, they've got a real product you can go out and test, and people will be able to build value inside of this world. But along with that, they've been actually, again, embracing this ambition of connecting with the blockchain world and cryptocurrency ecosystems, right? They're not just building an interesting space for you to explore, but they've also got things that we're familiar with, all right? So when we talk about NFTs and digital collectibles, there is no better name that is known out there in the crypto space than CryptoKitties, all right? And what better way to make CryptoKitties more valuable than to be able to actually bring them in to your own world? See, this is something that's really cool about blockchain, and people don't, I think, see this value just yet of being able to have a guarantee that there is a limited supply of some form of asset. and being able to utilize that asset in different ways through different virtual experiences. You can now bring your CryptoKitty to life inside of their world, inside your Somnium space. And I think this is absolutely fascinating. Again, it's very, I think, early on. I think there's room for improvement on it, but I have to say, again, it's just cool to see that all these things are starting to come together, and Somnium seems to really be taking the best of both worlds here between virtual reality and the digitization of assets, whether they be real-world assets or in-game assets, right? Now, another important thing to note as well in the sense of partnerships, again, I think this really speaks to how they're really moving along and actually building real value inside the VR world, is they're working with Known Origin, which is basically a blockchain-based startup that aims to provide an ability for people to have authentic digital copies of art on the blockchain. So basically, you can create a limited amount of a certain piece of art. And what this is going to be useful for inside of Somnium Space is that inside your Somnium Space, or the land that you own, you'd be able to display a unique form of art. And the only way that you can actually, display that in your world is by having the token, the authentication, the confirmation on the Ethereum blockchain or on the Loom network to basically say, hey, I actually own this. And there's only a limited supply of this. I mean, really, we don't talk about how big the digital collectibles market is. Just think about how much bigger it's going to be when you can actually bring it to life. I think that's the really exciting factor here that's going to really change the game. And they even showcased here one other thing that I haven't even really thought about in the sense of the VR world. I've thought about this with AR in the sense of being able maybe to display advertisements in the world that you're walking around, augmented reality, which is a little bit different than VR. But what I find really interesting is actually being able to monetize land in VR, being able to sell maybe services of some sort, or to be able to connect people to products or goods to do business in the physical world or things in virtual reality of some sort, being able to do commerce in virtual reality. And just like in e-commerce, you can actually build value in the VR world. So in this example, they actually showcased the first Tesla Model 3 being bought inside of Somnium Space, in this case, inside of the virtual reality world in general. So this is really exciting to see. And Somnium's actually kind of pushing, again, at every different corner to not only provide a lot of flexibility to make Somnium Space what you want it to be for those who who partake in it, who buy land in this case, who again want to be a part of this ecosystem, but also being able to showcase that, hey, you can actually monetize this. You can make it affordable to own land inside the game and be a part of it, right? You can make this your own. So I think this is really exciting. Now, there's a few important things to note, guys. They are doing an ILO, an initial land offering, and again, I usually try to stay away from most kind of capital raising stuff here on the channel, but with an ILO, in this case, pretty much anyone can participate in it, and it's run through OpenSea, which again is one of my favorite projects out there for digital collectibles. And the thing I like about it is you're not getting some token that you don't know is going to be worth much. In this case, you have actual land within the game. You have a real SDK and an actual space that's going to allow for a large number of users to come into one world and be able to give you the ability to utilize this land in whatever way or shape or form that you want. And that's the really cool thing about it. I was talking with Artur in this case about the project itself, and whereas I've seen a lot of VR projects have a very big kind of moderator mindset where they have all these control points, everything's centralized. The cool thing about Somnium Space is that you own this land, right? And the thing about it is that in this virtual experience, right, you have complete autonomy in a sense. Right? You can do what you want. You can express what you want in this world, and that's the really cool thing about it. And I was telling Arthur, I talk about this with, this kind of idea of what the internet used to really be about. The internet used to be this idea that anyone could express what they wanted to, they could connect with who they wanted to, and they could talk and say whatever they wanted, to talk about. And I think there's a beauty to that. It's not always perfect, but it's the beauty of allowing true freedom to flourish in these new virtual experiences. And I think it's so awesome that they've stuck to that message. It's what gets me really excited about VR, because it allows for unlimited potential, right? For ideas to be shared, for communication across the world. We can now build almost seamless or realistic experiences where we can talk across the world with friends, family, whoever it may be. And I think that's extremely exciting. Now, if you guys want to find some more information here, again, feel free to check out the website, download the client for yourself, give it a test run. And if you're interested, you can check out the link down below and participate in purchasing land within Somnium Space so you can have a piece of this ecosystem, or follow them over on Twitter. Again, I'll leave any relevant links down below in the description so you guys can engage with them as you like. But I gotta say, really exciting stuff. Hats off to Somnium Space. They've been keeping under the radar for a long time. I like projects like this where I hadn't heard about them before. There wasn't much hype. And then I actually did some digging into them. I looked into the project, and it's really exciting to see what they've got. I think this is going to give them a lot of potential in the long term to actually leave a lasting impact on the VR and blockchain space, and showcase how these two technologies, which many of us are so passionate about, can come together and really provide some value and truly change the way we think about interacting with one another across the world. Anyways, guys, that is it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, any relevant links can be found below down in the description, and I can't wait to see what Somnium Space does. I actually recently bought myself a VR headset, so I'll be testing it out myself and getting a feel for it sometime soon in the future. So hope you all are doing well, and I'll see you all in the next video. Stay tuned.